Hello, I'm John Stanmeyer, and I want to distill the complexities, because they're not that complex, of how to organize your archive. We're going to do this in Lightroom. We're going to do this in a brief session. There's an extended version of this that Seven has, and they'll point you to it on how to find it. But let's just jump right into it right now. Let me share my screen. Um, I use Lightroom, and I presume all of you are doing the same thing, which is why you're here. And the most critical aspect of doing this is to understand sort of management of tangibles you cannot see. In this case, digital photography is not something you can hold. It's not like film, like I have over here in many, many metal file cabinets here in the downstairs part of my studio. There's another studio upstairs. Digital photography is really made up of invisible things, ones and zeros. I don't know what it all means. I don't care what it means, but that's how we interact with our photography today, whether it's film that we digitally scanned or images we created with a digital camera, digital video, and what have you. So it is critical to have a large enough storage unit, hard drive, so to speak. In this case, I use a RAID, 120 terabyte RAID. I'll try to show it to you here because it's next to me. There it is, that black box. It's made by OWC, and inside are eight 14 terabyte hard drives. One is in backup to sustain a hard drive failure, and all the raw files go in that RAID or big hard drive. It doesn't matter how big your archive is. I don't care if you have a huge, massive archive or a little titsy weeny baby-sized archive. It doesn't matter. None is better than the other. Not interested in ego and what anybody does or doesn't do. It's irrelevant. It's what you do in this life, whether it's incredibly small but meaningful or incredibly big and also meaningful. So here in Lightroom, I organize everything by country. I do work on a global basis, but I also this also works for very local creating of stories as well. In that case, instead of many, many different countries, I would choose the country that you focus in, whether it's where you live, or a region. Let's say you live in Spain or France. You do a lot of work in France or Spain, but it's pretty simple to cross these invisible lines we call borders and work on other stories. So let's say you would call it Europe for that case. Or in this another instance, maybe you only work in Spain, perfectly fine. Maybe you would divide it up by regions of Spain to help you find it. Kind of like how books in a library are found using either index cards, pieces of paper. How do you find a book in a massive library? How do you find, or whether using computers at libraries to find the books? It's the same thing with our digital archives. So I set them up by country, and Lightroom exists on my laptop. I do have quite a large hard drive on my laptop, an 8 terabyte hard drive. The entire Lightroom catalog that consists of over 1 million, well, exactly, there's a number here, but that's just only the photography and some video, is 1,034,666 digital assets or digital things, whether they're still photography or video. And it is replicated here. Let me show you on my desktop. There is the main archive. It'll take a second to open because it is such a large archive. We'll let it load in the background while we go back to Lightroom. But everything is divided by country. And again, in here, as it's still loading, is you'll see when this does load, it mirrors the left side of Lightroom under the hard drive title of main archive, which keep loading. Sorry, it does say main archive here. So and then I divide it, as I mentioned, by country. There are other sort of folders within that archive that are other things that could be more other images and or video that could be more deeply organized, but I know where they are and I get to them sooner or later. But a vast majority, maybe 95, 98% of the million plus images in the digital archive are organized by country. So let's say Brazil. I've done a number of stories in Brazil, so I divide them up by stories because that is how the way I can understand it. So in this case, I did a story a few years ago on empowerment of women in Brazil. There's 25,473 images, a simple press on it, and there is everything. Well, I got to move the little video monitor of me here. And with basic star ratings, I can find how the images, how the cream rose to the top of the narratives. I can get into, 3 stars, 4 stars, even 5 stars. You can do color ratings. You can go crazy with this stuff. I wouldn't be so concerned about it. That's maybe for another more in-depth Lightroom tutorial with all of you. So here again, now this loaded, I just want to show you. Remember, I mentioned over here, it says main archive on the top. I hope you can see the little pointer of my mouse here on the left. And that's the main archive here. And in there are different folders. Lightroom is only connecting, let me show you here, to 3 different things: the archive photography, archive video, and for whatever reason, the 7 Mentor program, which is here. And in the photography archive is, as I mentioned, all the countries exactly the same over here on the left in the. Sorry, let me open that up here. There. Let me open back up the Finder. Exactly the same as you see here in the main structure of the archive photography folder within the RAID. You do not touch anything in here within the RAID because Lightroom has, I don't know how to explain it, like little fiber optic, invisible digital connections to every single image within here. So all the 1 million plus images have some connection running from Lightroom to every file within these folders. Do not move them in here, or otherwise you lose that connection. You move images around in Lightroom. This acts like a finder. So as I mentioned, I do everything by country, the different stories here. Let's say Armenia. Do have it divided into 3 little subsections. Armenia, which has many, many different stories in them. Project that I've been doing for years on bridging peace between Armenia and Turkey, called Bridging Stories, has a section here, and then a few edits from Nagorno-Karabakh. And so that's how I find things because it becomes organized. China is another example. I used to live in China, and I've been there uncountable amount of times. There are many, many stories I've done in China. Here again, you can see, I don't know how many there are, maybe 20, 30 or more. And if I come into the China folder here on the RAID, they are all mirrored exactly the same, right? Artists in China here in the Finder of the RAID, artists in China here within, I guess you can call this the Finder window, but let's say within the main archive structure for China is artists in China, Austin Power and Star Wars Toy Factory in China, and so on and so on. So everything mirrors itself here. But you don't interact within the Finder. You only interact with your images in Lightroom. So having everything really well organized allows you to find things. I don't know if you can see the monitor of me here. I'm only able to look at the Lightroom catalog. But behind me are boxes, right? Some of them are film boxes, others are artifacts from different stories. There's even the historical items from Founding 7 some 20 years ago with my friends, and exhibition articles, press passes, out of Eden Walk historical memorabilia, artifacts from this massive project I've been doing now for about 13 years. How would I find that if it didn't have boxes, or let's call them, pretend they're all film boxes that had labels on them? That's why the Lightroom catalog needs to be sort of approached as a tangible item. because again, digital imagery is made up of just numbers, ones and zeros, in bizarre sequences that I don't know and I don't understand and I don't care to understand. I just want to know how to interact with them, and I want you to know how to interact with them to distill all this digital madness to create the most strongest, well organized archive so it can empower you and your work to find other stories within your archive, whether it's just from a region or country, let's say again of Spain or France, or multiple countries or an entire continent. It doesn't matter how you want to structure it; it's whatever is most comfortable for you. Indonesia, another place I lived for many, many years, and go back every year, sometimes twice a year. I lived in Indonesia for more than 5 years. I've been going there for about 20. I have a very large selection just within Indonesia itself, across many of the different islands of the archipelago nation, and they're all organized here. Economic story I did for Time Magazine in Jakarta, the Jakarta bombing memorial. The president, one of the former presidents of Indonesia, Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono. So everything is findable here because I can see it and read it rather than searching around and where does it exist. A lot of people will put dates in their for their folders of their images. In all love and kindness to all of you who do that, how the hell do you know what you did 5 years ago on August 23rd, 2021? I can barely remember what I did yesterday. How am I going to know what I did 5 years ago? I highly recommend avoiding the date structure of your archives because it doesn't mean anything. It also doesn't mean anything to somebody who needs to get in your archive, whether it's an assistant, a friend, a family member. When you're not in studio, how do you find that image if you can't even figure out where it is or what it is based upon the date you made it weeks ago, months ago, years ago? It doesn't make sense. Organize it by a topic or thread of that story to find it. Because you can search for images by date creation within Lightroom. So why do you need to date it? Bali is another very large archive. Again, I lived there, made books about the island. Everything is organized here. Everything I can go by a cremation in 2005. It'll take Lightroom a second to open. I can look at and find early edits that I made. Obviously, I didn't do any there. Let me find something that is will have what I'm trying to show you. Just last month, I was in Bali hosting a workshop that I do annually, and I've already done a 1-star rating. I can find everything there. I can find 2-star ratings, 3-star and above. I can come in and, in this case, let's say here from the Oga Oga events, this big parade that happens at night, and I can find everything really easily, and it's already toned or needs to be toned. Maybe that's another Lightroom workshop for all of you on how to tone. We did that the other day with a group of 7 Foundation photographers in Qatar. But here again is the structure to be able to find it. And dates do not make any sense to me because, again, I cannot even remember what I did the other day, let alone what I did months or years ago. So make it so you can understand it like you're going into a physical library or like your kitchen. If you had, 500 drawers in your kitchen with different appliances and forks and whatnot everywhere, you'd have to label all those drawers. And that's the same way with your digital archive. So I'm about to reach the 15-minute mark. This is the way to organize and empower your photography, your life, so that you can give to your photography, produce, exhibitions from a large or even small body of work, to be able to expand and make a living in this beautiful, empowering, needed act of storytelling for yourself and for all humanity. And you can only do that by having an organized archive. And Lightroom does just that. So if you ever have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. my dear friends and family at Seven can give you my contact details. You can find me on Instagram as well. Here again, India. I also label every folder with the word archive so that I have many folders called India. How do I find it if I need to search within the Finder? India, I can find that entire root directory by knowing that I write the word archive. And every story here is organized. There's also collections where you can put things together for other projects, but that's a whole other topic. Takes a bit of time to explain that. I hope that helps. I'm going to stop screen recording here. I do hope this helps. By empowering yourself and empowering your archive, you can do tremendous things, both in your photography and your life. Thank you so much. I hope this was helpful, and I look forward to doing another workshop with all of you at the Seven Foundation.